Hey friends, and welcome back to Sewing from Scratch. I am Kate, and this is where I teach you everything I know about sewing and we learn more together along the way. Today I am sharing 15 pattern companies who draft their patterns for a larger hip size, i.e. curvy sewing patterns. Let's get into it. So I'm going to break these down into three kind of categories. We're going to talk about companies who offer full bust options. We're going to talk about pattern companies who have two different size ranges, and then the rest is kind of the third category. And some of these pattern companies might possibly, maybe, potentially be coming up in Shelf Sewing September as giveaway sponsors. So that's all I'm gonna say. Make sure you're subscribed, make sure you're following me on Instagram. That's where the challenge takes place. There's some really great prizes that I am actually really jealous about. So make sure you get in on that in September. So let's get the full bust options out of the way. First up, this is kind of, I would say, and this is just my own personal opinion, I actually don't know where I'm getting this from, but I think the full bust option is like the biggest thing, and maybe this is just from being a busty person, you know, growing up with a large bust and a small waist. I could never find, especially bras, but clothing as well, to fit my body. So seeing companies who are offering full bust options, knowing that not everyone who has a full bust also has a larger waist or hip, is very important to me, and I think it is wonderful. Even now that I have had a breast reduction, I do think it is fabulous, and I am still a large chested. I still do sometimes like doing an FBA and that kind of thing. So these pattern companies have taken that work out for you. You just have to cut a different front piece, and that's it. Like it's really no extra work at all. So let's see which pattern companies are offering this. First up is Love Notions. I have tried Love Notions patterns, and I actually have made the Sunday romper. Don't think you guys have actually seen that, but I have made the Sunday romper. Love it to heck. I am totally obsessed with that pattern. I've also used their free leggings pattern for my daughter. I think it's free, and really love that one. So I have used Love Notions. I really like their patterns. I know Whitney from Tomcat Stitchery, she is a diehard Love Notions fan, so I feel confident recommending Love Notions. And Love Notions drafts up to a 59.5 inch hip size. Next up is Buttons and Bibs. This is a Canadian pattern company. If you haven't watched my Canadian pattern company video, I will link that down below. I also have a living document spreadsheet for all different Canadian pattern companies. Buttons and Bibs offers full bust options. I actually pattern tested for Christy, and I think Buttons and Bibs is actually the largest size range on this list, and they offer patterns up to a 73 inch hip. Christy does offer full bust options, so again, these are just, instead of cutting out a regular front piece, you cut out the full bust front piece. It's no different. You've still cut the same amount of pieces and all that. It's just the full bust option is there for you if you need it. Okay, next up is Itch to Stitch, and I actually have not used Itch to Stitch patterns. Itch to Stitch was a sponsor of last year's Shelf Sewing September, and I of course have seen Itch to Stitch around. Again, Whitney uses Itch to Stitch. I am confident in recommending Itch to Stitch. I think you'll have success. They offer their patterns up to a 62 inch hip, so you should be able to find something on their website that is of interest to you. And the next pattern company that offers full bust options is Friday Pattern Co. And actually, I didn't know this until I was kind of looking into their patterns, but they do offer two different cup sizes that you can choose from. And I know there are other companies who offer this. I just, honestly, I couldn't find them off the top of my head. So whatever I'm missing, leave me a comment down below and let me know, because this is something that I might also make a spreadsheet for, you know, to be of service to others in the community, because I know there's a lot of us who identify as curvy sewists. And Friday Pattern Co. did draft up to a 57 inch hip, but I think they have expanded their size range. I think they're going a little bit further than that in some of their new patterns and then updating their older ones. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is the case. Okay, next I wanted to talk about pattern companies that offer 2 different size ranges. So this is kind of different from the full bust options. So this is where they'll have like say 0 to 18 in one size range, and then maybe like 14 to 30 in another size range. So there's a smaller size range with some companies call them misses, and then there's a little bit of overlap where you can either be in the misses or the curvy, and then there's the plus size, for lack of a better term, at the other end. What this tells me is that this company is using 2 different blocks to draft the same pattern. So they'll draft from one block for the one set of pattern sizes, and then they'll use their larger block for the other set. And that overlap there is where I fit in, actually, which is kind of cool. It's actually confusing, frustrating, but also really cool. So what this means is I can look at their size chart and I might fit into their misses size, but maybe my bust fits into one size and then my hip is over here and my waist is over here, and it doesn't all line up. But then if I go to their curvy size range, I fit into like one exact size, and that's really exciting to me because that means I don't have to do any grading, and I really like that. So some of the pattern companies that have that are Seamwork. I've talked about Seamwork quite a bit. I have actually a whole video dedicated to Seamwork. I can link that below as well if you're interested. I always have my discount code linked below for you guys for Seamwork, but they do offer the 2 different size ranges. So they have their misses and their curvy. I typically use their misses size range just because I don't really know why, just because I guess I'm on the smaller end of the curvy size range, and that's just how it works. I find their patterns to be large on me anyway. Like I always have to size down quite a bit, so there's always adjustments to be made anyway, so I just go with the miss. I don't know, I just do. And they draft up to a 58-inch hip, and they have all kinds of different patterns, like all kinds of different patterns on their website. They release 2 new patterns, at least 2 new patterns every month, and it's a membership-based service. I think that's the only one on this list that is membership based, so check them out if you are interested in that. Do It Better Yourself Club also offers 2 different size ranges. Now, what I will say about Do It Better Yourself Club and some other pattern companies who offer 2 different size ranges is they actually charge you for both. So what I mean by that is when you buy the pattern, you have to choose either the misses or the curvy. You don't get both, which is kind of upsetting, because you can buy a pattern from somewhere else that has 0, 00 all the way up to size 30, 40, and you have all those sizes included, so you can make them all up for people in your life, but these companies don't. So what you'll find is if you don't know, if you're a beginner sewist, or maybe your size fluctuates a lot, or something like that, you'll end up buying both sizes, which is something I did in the early days with Do It Better Yourself Club for their Augusta Moto jeans. I bought both sizes because I had no idea, and obviously now know more and regret that, but it's just I guess a negative to having this. Also, some people will argue like, why should I have to pay twice, kind of thing. I did just want to let you know that, just to like check the pattern sizes. Usually the listing will say we also have it offered in this size, so check that out. So just keep your eyes open for that. Sometimes they'll have like a drop down menu where you have to choose a size, so make sure you're choosing the right one. Just a couple different things that you'll need to be aware of if you are shopping from a pattern company like that. And Do It Better Yourself Club drafts up to a 67-inch hip. The next pattern company with 2 size ranges is Tilly and the Buttons, and they draft up to a 61-inch hip. And I believe that, again, you choose which size range you want for their patterns as well. Okay, next is Sinclair, and I was hesitant I couldn't decide which category to put Sinclair Patterns in, because they have 3 different cup sizes throughout their sizes, if that makes sense. So like this group of sizes is for this cup size, and then the next group goes 1 cup size up, and then the last group is a 3rd cup size. And I don't think you really get to choose your cup size. I've never used Sinclair Patterns, so I can't speak personally on that. I believe they just use a different block for each size grouping, so that's why I put it here. I don't know if you've used Sinclair and I'm wrong on this, please let me know down in the comments. But they do offer the different cup sizing, and they do realize that larger people potentially need larger busts measurements. However, that's not always the case either, so just find a company that works for you. And lastly, for cup sizes, probably the most synonymous company with curvy sewing in my brain is Cashmerette Patterns. I have not unfortunately used any Cashmerette patterns yet, but they are on my list, of course, and they do have cup sizes. So they actually offer 3 different cup sizes that you can choose from, and I believe they work with every pattern size. So you pick your cup size, you pick your garment size, and then there's pieces to mingle them together. All right, now there's 7 other patterns that I wanted to mention that draft for a larger hip size. Kicking things off here in Canada is Helen's Closet. This is a company I have used. I do love her designs. She's more like a modern, I don't want to say trendy, they're trendy classics, if that makes sense. So like, for example, they just released the Reynolds dress, which is a square neckline, which is kind of on trend for right now. They do draft for a larger hip size, and that hip size is 62 inches. Helen's patterns are more loose fitting. They're not, you know, body skimming or they don't really show off your shape, I would say. They are more loose fitting garments. So that is definitely a specific style that you might be into. Then check out Helen's Closet. And next I want to mention Ellie and Mac, and this is probably my first pattern love affair. When I first started sewing, Ellie and Mac made up the majority of my sewing, actually they probably still do make up the majority of my sewing patterns. They have a ton of designs. Lindsay is wonderful. I think she puts out 1 new pattern every week. You know, I've heard mixed reviews, but personally I do like Ellie and Mac patterns. There's just always something there that I can find that'll work for me. And they also have great kids patterns and lots of mommy and me options. And Lindsay drafts up to a 63-inch hip at Ellie and Mac. Okay, next is Style Arc, and I was hesitant whether or not to include Style Arc because on their website they really don't show any curvy options. Like they use I don't know, like rendered drawings to show their patterns, and none of them are curvy, and you know, I just like, I love their designs, but I just wasn't sure if I would consider them a curvy sewing pattern. But I decided to include them because they do draft up to a 61-inch hip, so there will be pattern options in there that would, you know, appeal to curvier bodies. And next up is Grainline Studios. They draft up to a 59-inch hip, and I think you'd be able to find quite a few appealing designs on their website. And finally, we have 3 Canadian brands that I want to share with you. First up is Stay and Stitch, and they draft up to a 62-inch hip. Next is Muna and Broad, drafting up to a 71.5-inch hip. Only the second company that offers patterns up into the 70-inch hip size. And they do offer, like right when you go on their website, there's options for plus size sewing. I really don't like that term. Let me know down below, is there something we can use other than plus size? I don't know. It just, for some reason, it just rubs me the wrong way. Maybe it just has a negative connotation with it. And then lastly is Victory Patterns, and they draft up to a 60-inch hip, and their designs are just so elegant, and I really like their website. I have not purchased from them yet, but of course I have plans to purchase from so many pattern companies when I get around to it. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this video. I really hope that these pattern companies were new to you, so at least some of them that you can check out if you're into curvy sewing or not, because a lot of these, well, pretty much all of these also have small size ranges, and there should be something that you can find there even if you're not a curvy sewist. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you are not a curvy sewist. And if you are a curvy sewist, how many times can I say curvy sewist? I encourage you to find a pattern company that works for your body, and don't get down on yourself if something doesn't work. That just means it's not for you. And every body is a beautiful body, and I'm gonna leave some more links down in the description box for just some words of encouragement, things that I think you might enjoy. So I love you all, I love all your bodies, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!